Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
In the last few minutes, the U.S. Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, has begun testifying in the Senate about his dealings with Russian officials and whether he had a role in the sacking of former FBI Chief James Comey. Senators will want to know why Mr. Sessions said he'd had no contact with the Russians last year, when it later emerged he'd met the ambassador at least twice. But he isn't expected to answer any questions about his conversations with President Trump. Our Washington correspondent Kylie Morris explains.
It all began so gloriously. One of Donald Trump's most loyal lieutenants elevated to the lofty role of Attorney General. There were doubts, allegations of racism that had cost him an official post before, and unreconstructed positions on mandatory sentencing and the war on drugs. But there was no doubting his loyalty.
It is an honor beyond words to serve under you and your leadership.
Here we go. Here he goes.
But just 3 weeks later, he enraged the president by choosing to recuse himself from overseeing the investigation into links between the Trump campaign and Russia.
I have now decided to recuse myself from any existing or future investigations of any matter relating in any way to the campaigns for President of the United States.
The moment that forced his hand was this. At his confirmation hearing under pressure from Democratic Senator Al Franken, he failed to recall meetings he'd had with the Russian ambassador Sergei Kislyak.
I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I did not have communications with the Russians.
As it turned out, one of their meetings was here at the Republican National Convention in Cleveland. Jeff Sessions talked to us about candidate Trump.
But he's a strong man. He's got decisive, he can make decisions.
We don't know what he talked to Ambassador Kislyak about, but the Senate Intelligence Committee would very much like to know. The committee is conducting one of the 5 investigations currently underway into Russian interference in the U.S. election. They'll want to know how many times Jeff Sessions in fact met with Ambassador Kislyak. Already, undisclosed contact with him has led to scrutiny of other Trump confidants, including Jared Kushner and former National Security Advisor Mike Flynn, who was forced to resign for lying about his conversations with the Russian envoy.
I've seen the tweet about tapes. Lordy, I hope they're tapes.
Last week's testimony from James Comey, the FBI director who Jeff Sessions helped to sack, has heightened interest in what we might hear today. The director opened the door to speculation. We haven't heard the whole story on the Attorney General.
We also were aware of facts that I can't discuss in an open setting that would make his continued engagement in a Russia-related investigation problematic.
At the White House today, the president tried to change the channel onto his man of action narrative.
Seldom has any president and administration done more or had more success so early on.
In truth, from early on, this administration has been dogged by the Russia investigation. Today's hearing a likely determinant in how long that problem persists. That hearing is only just getting underway now. We've just heard from the chairman of the committee welcoming Jeff Sessions. He has volunteered to appear before the committee, which they've said they appreciate, and he's also agreed to do it as an open hearing. He could have had the option, claiming confidentiality, that he needed to speak before a closed hearing, but instead, as you might be able to see, there's a very big audience here. There are lots of people already inside, others hoping to be allowed in later as Jeff Sessions gets into his evidence. But certainly there's no shortage of questions from the committee. We've already heard from the chairman saying that he wants to know about any meetings with Russian officials on behalf of the Trump campaign that were conducted by Jeff Sessions. He wants to know about the foreign policy team, whether or not any policies were changed on the basis of contacts with Russia, any reasons why, other reasons that we don't know about, why Jeff Sessions felt that he had to recuse himself from the oversight of the investigation on Russia, and his role in the removal of James Comey. And I think it's very important to reflect on the role that James Comey has played in all of this. That kind of blockbuster hearing here last week before the committee really set up a situation whereby it was very difficult for the Attorney General to refuse to appear. Remember, the Attorney General has also paid a political price for his involvement in this, for his recusal. We know that he's in fact offered to resign in the past few weeks as a result of the President's anger with him recusing himself from the investigation. It kind of means that the President doesn't really have a direct line of control over this investigation. He doesn't have anyone on the inside. Rod Rosenstein, who's the Deputy Attorney General, has gained power as a result of Jeff Sessions' decision to recuse himself, and it is Rosenstein who actually appointed the special counsel, Robert Mueller. So a lot to hear, a lot of interest. Again, the Russia investigation isn't going away.
Kylie Morris in Washington tonight.